Pete, what's up with Dairy Queen giving their franchisees 150 grand?
Well, is that the good news? I guess that's the good news. What it tells you is that Warren Buffett and Berkshire Hathaway wanna grow the property. And for those of you that
Yeah,
don't know what a Dairy Queen grill and chill is, it's what it sounds like. It's a grill, it's burgers, it's fries, it's chicken fingers, and it's obviously everything Dairy Queen that makes dessert and blizzards and all the rest. They want people to open these things, and they're obviously not opening them up fast enough. So the incentive,
right.
which is unusual, you and I have been at this franchising thing a long time. People don't usually
Yeah,
give you money to franchise, usually you give them money to franchise. You know,
that's right.
what's my immediate reaction? I did some research. My immediate reaction is, what's it cost to get in? And it can cost you 1.5 to $2.5 million to get in.
So take the average of that. It's 2 million. That's 7.5% of your cost to get in. They're giving you a check for that.
Would that get you over the edge? I don't know. Here's another number though that I thought was interesting. And obviously on the show, we talk numbers, and not just theory. The average grill and chill does about $1.2 million. $1.2 million is pretty good for if that was a Dairy Queen sitting out in front of your gym that you just got a line of people buying blizzards, $1.2 million, you'd be taking a lot of money to the bank. But you're
Yeah.
not talking about that though now. You're talking about building a freestanding restaurant. And 25
Okay.
years ago, a Wendy's doing 1.2 million wasn't gonna make you, retire on a Caribbean island.
Right.
So,
Right.
it's an interesting thing.
So if you did the quick math on that, and QSR and casual dining and all that way better than me, because I don't know it at all, and you've been in it for
I guess
decades.
I guess
But it like if
absolutely
you did a 20%, if you did 1.2 and you were making 20%, that's 240 grand a year, to recoup $2 million is, am I doing that right? About 8
well, and the way
years?
the way the way it really works in that world is that you come up with a break even. You add up all your numbers and you come up with a break even. And let's call it a break even's $1 million. Okay, 850 even. You then get what's the flow through of your variable costs. So in other words, if it costs you 70 cents every time a person comes in your restaurant, and this is a more complicated conversation for another day, but if it costs you 70 cents
Yeah.
because you got labor and you got food cost and you have everything else that adds up, you got 70. That means once you hit your break even, you make 30%. So if that's the case and you broke even at 900,000 and you hit a million two, you would make 30% of $300,000. So you'd make 90 grand. There's nobody,
And
trust me, that's putting 20% on the bottom line straight. I mean, think about it. I mean,
yeah.
what's your debt service on 1.2 million? You know what? I started
Yeah.
thinking about what's 1.2 million in today's world. What do you think 1.2 million would mean to Chick-fil-A operator? 1.2 million. A
Yeah.
lot.
It's well, with their volume, it's not a whole year. I know that. It's
I
way
can tell
less than
you
that.
this. You ready? Yeah, I did it. I mean,
Yeah.
did a couple calculations. It is
I have a
52.
feeling you did some arcane calculation that
Oh,
you're
yeah,
gonna
you're
wow
gonna
us
like
with.
this
Give it
one.
to her.
My mind works in weird ways. It's 52 Tuesdays.
Okay.
That's it. It's a year of
Just
Tuesday.
Tuesday.
This Tuesday. They're
All
already
right.
closed Sunday. So right now for this calculation, they're closed every day but Tuesday, and they're gonna do a little bit more than what a grill and chill is gonna do all day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's not to say that I don't like Dairy Queen, and it's not to say
Right.
that the guy who buys a Dairy Queen had a chance at getting in on Chick-fil-A, which is an unusual working relationship
Yeah.
anyway. But no, it's
Yeah.
not a question that I just wanted to give our listeners a little perspective of what 1.2 is. One
Yeah.
1.2 in a fast food world, like a Wendy's or a Hardee's or whatever, 1.2 would not be a number getting you out of your chair.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Now, if I make it
Big investment.
1980, excuse me, make it 1986, it might get you out of your chair a little.
Yeah. But they've got so many franchisees. I think they only added 18 on last year, is what I saw. And the other thing is, and we're not going to go into this today, is they're backed by a ton of money and one raving fan sitting in Omaha, that it's not going away, right? Berkshire Hathaway is not going away, and it's a very solid, staid. The risk is low. It's a brand that's been around for decades, and it might be the perfect thing for some people, right?
Well, one
It's
of the thoughts about it is that every place can use a Dairy Queen, and there's a whole bunch
yeah,
of places that can't handle a Burger King or a Wendy's or a McDonald's or a fill in the blank. So part of
yeah,
what does is kind of fit that niche, where you can be the ice cream place, but why not? I've already got them coming here. Why not sell them more? That's the logic
yeah,
of grill and chill.
yeah,
And then in places that are, you know, tourist attractions where everybody's going to go get ice cream, the feeling is why not add to the average check?
yeah, yeah.
It,
It's
it's
just a lot more cost, right?
a lot
And I'm
more
sure the
cost and a lot more risk. You know,
yeah, yeah. And I don't know cost of goods with QSR, but I have seen the price of beef lately going up
oh
and
my
up and up.
gosh.
So I'm sure the soft serve ingredients haven't gone up in parallel with beef prices,
Okay, imagine
right?
though you're sitting in Los Angeles, or you're sitting in wherever, Charleston, South Carolina, where I live, and your wages are starting to hit 15, 16, $17 an hour in fast food,
Mm,
and your beef prices are going up, and your cost of heat is going up. I mean, your cost of air conditioning is going up. We wonder why we walk into these places and what used to be a $5 meal is a $9 meal. It
or some of them, it's a $19 value meal now, as we talked about,
Yeah, I
some
mean,
unnamed.
yeah, we won't say that, but there's plenty of guys out there who get, interestingly enough, who get compared. Why can't you be as good as? Well, that's because they're 1950 for their combo meal, and I'm 850. So it's always
Yeah,
interesting what we get compared to. And one of the conversations we'll have to have though is Chili's is coming back, and that conversation for another day, and they're trying to do it with $10.50 combo meals and a building. So,
yeah,
and it's somehow
yeah.
working.
It's getting harder.
It is getting harder. I got a question for you though. One of the segments that I wanted to add to
Mhm.
this is what I like to call an F bomb. We're not, we're PG still.
Family friendly.
We're PG for Pete and Guy. So for Pete and Guy, excuse me. So we're PG.
It's okay.
So
Yeah.
if we're PG, what's the F bomb? I want to know what franchise or what franchise decision or what in this world that you and I are talking about was an absolute bomb. What happened? What was good and then went away? Give me one.
Well, the first one that comes to mind is from a industry that I'm super familiar with, and that's fitness. And it's the lesson that everybody else is taking from this is like you have to keep iterating, and that would be curves. Curves at one time had over 10,000 units. It was for ladies only. It made people feel safe. They had a little circuit. They had the same equipment. They didn't change anything from marketing to equipment to programming. That nothing significant, and it ran its course, and they went from 10,000 to whatever they are today. But the system that I'm most familiar with, Anytime Fitness and other people in fitness, they're always iterating because they know these things come and go, and you have to keep on changing. So it's a lesson for everybody that no matter how good you are, things change and you cannot stay the same unless you're like retro right from the start, right? If you're a 1955 Chevy, you don't try to become a 2026 Tesla. Like, no, you're cool because you're a 55 Chevy, right? But everybody else, they need to change with the times, and that's the bellwether for, oh my gosh, we have to keep on iterating, or we're going to get left behind.
I think it's also, isn't when you say when it's easier and cheaper to get in curves, you've got a strip mall, you've got not that much equipment, and you got somebody aggressively trying to sell franchises, and it looks like it's going.
Hmm.
I mean, doesn't that get you to 10,000 a lot quicker? I mean, my gosh,
Yeah,
you got the 18 grill and chills, you know?
yeah, yeah. Well, it was. I mean, they also had lightning in a bottle because it was. Some people weren't feeling comfortable in co-ed places like the meat markets and things like that, where there's a bunch of young people, looking for other things besides fitness, right? And there's still those places. There's I guess it's better than going to bars, I guess, but um, but, it was also usually in smaller they went into smaller communities. There's usually a powerhouse, female leader, that has a circle of influence and can get people in, and it was fantastic because I'm all about in fitness, th our competition is not other fitness gyms, it's Netflix and comfortable couches and Doritos and Cheetos, right? I mean, that's our competition. 80% of the population still doesn't have a gym membership. So I don't look at other fitness options as the competition. It's comfort and people giving up on themselves, which we see all the time. So it was great for that because it got ladies in a place that they felt safe. They were with their crowd. They were working out. They were exercising. They were having social engagement. So it's a shame that it's not around anymore because there's still people that don't feel comfortable. And as many times as I tell people in our gyms or gym now, I was like, no one's looking at you. Everybody's focused on themselves in here. Like, and anybody that walks in the door is a hero because you could be on the couch watching Netflix right now. So,
It's
yeah,
interesting.
that was a bellwether
It was a
for
bomb, and
iteration.
yet if you had been running it, you think you could have made it into something that stayed alive?
Um, well, in hindsight, yeah, like I would have, yeah, I would have changed the marketing. I would have changed the look. I would have changed some of the equipment. I would have added on different modalities so that it's not just machine based because it used to be like machines are safer because you don't have to stabilize and everything. I'm like, well, life, everything isn't in one plane of motion in life, right? Like, no, we want people to have better balance. We want them to have more muscle mass because we're going to lose it as we get older. So, yeah, definitely. And it wouldn't have taken a genius. And this is all with the benefit of hindsight, of course, right? So anybody can be a genius from on
And
Monday
you talked
morning
about
looking
it,
at the Sunday game.
if it wasn't for
What's that?
retro, you said something that was neat. If it wasn't, the retro stuff's different. I do have to take a second here, because you and I have been reading about Pizza Hut and retro.
Yeah,
What about this guy now that is
I
bringing
love it.
old-fashioned 150 units he wants to build of old-fashioned Pizza Huts? I mean,
I
we
love
all
it.
you
You go
like,
to any small town and you can spot what used to be a Pizza Hut. It's
and there
that
used to be
shape, you
one
know?
there, and there used to be one. Didn't every small town had one? Every
Yeah,
the
yeah,
big
and the red cups and the red Coca-Cola cups and the all-you-could-eat buffet, like, salad bar. Like, in high school, my friends and I used to go there just to, like I don't know how they made money with us going in there, but and I love Pizza Hut pizza, to be honest with you. I was like, I am I just liked it. It's an acquired taste, I think, but I love the idea that, like, yeah, let's get back to that shape. People remember it, I'm uh, of an age where I grew up, like, in the '80s, so they were still going strong, and, the ones that he's already done that look like the old ones, with the old Tiffany lamps and
yeah.
everything like that, they're killing it. People love it. Like, everybody likes to go back in time.
As we go on and do more of these, one of the things we gotta talk about, though, is customer experience, because the one thing that seems to be forgotten is, in this world of technology, statistically, if you talk to customers, they wanna be engaged. They want something that makes them feel good, like they're participating, like that they're
Yeah.
not just living inside a screen. So,
Yeah.
maybe Pizza Hut's got something that goes on. Maybe it's not all about ordering on your phone and picking it up through the special line and go
Right.
home and then watch a Netflix. Maybe actually you might actually go out with your family and sit down through a meal.
Yeah.
It's certainly a different way to look at pizza, because that's not what pizza's been over the last 15, 20 years. P you know,
Yeah. Exactly.
we thought pizza
It's
was gonna come by drone before we thought we were gonna bring back Pizza Huts.
the Pizza Hut, shaped restaurant, and I don't know what the build out costs or anything like that, but, like, you get people nostalgic and thinking about their high school days or their college days or growing up in that. It's a good thing. But speaking about food and people trying new things and trying things over and over again, um, like Wendy's and breakfast, let's talk about that, because they are bringing back breakfast again, and so many people have tried to be like, "Hey, we." I think it's because, hey, we have sunk costs. We have this facility. We're paying rent on it. We have a mortgage on it. Let's get some more. money out of it. So even if we're a lunch place or a dinner place, let's open up for breakfast and we'll get some people in here and we'll make money. And Wendy's has tried it 4 times. This is a big, sophisticated organization. There
Actually,
must be some reason for it. Tell us about it.
actually, they brought it back they first introduced it in 1985, didn't work. They brought it back in 2007, didn't work. They brought back a special iteration of it where it was more optional in 2012, didn't work. They brought it back in 2020, which is what you're referring to now, and then when they decided what you said with break evens being break evens, we need to maximize the building. Well,
Yeah.
guess what? Now they're starting to decide maybe we can't require this of our franchisees. Maybe we need to give them some flexibility, whether that's menu flexibility or hours. And interestingly enough, Taco Bell was convinced what in the last 5 years to bring back breakfast, and they're now giving flexibility to their franchisees. And you and I both know in the franchising world, flexibility is not necessarily what makes it work. I don't want to go into
Yeah.
a
It's,
Wendy's. I don't want to go into a Wendy's, on one street and then go to a different Wendy's and I got breakfast at one and it's closed. I mean, that's not
yeah.
so. What makes a company do something 4 times?
I don't know. Different time, different place. They think trends have changed or they have better menu items for breakfast. Like, I don't know other than like we need to have a higher AUV. I mean, that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, as a guy who was around with Burger King when we were introducing breakfast, it's a hard meal to get people to change. If you do the research on breakfast, people have a habit for breakfast. They have habits for lunch,
Mm,
but they often rotate them. Monday they might do
mhm.
this, Tuesday, whatever. In breakfast, boy, people generally get up if they're going to work in a traditional way, or the kids are going to school, or whatever they're doing. They have a routine, and it's hard to break that routine. And when you got some guys out there, I mean, it's hard to find breakfast chains that have succeeded. And now you look around and you look at Burger King. I mean, it's limped its way through breakfast for 100 years, but it's never been something that has really, been awesome to their bottom line. It's probably helped them with break even. Obviously, and
Yeah,
when not even doing that,
right.
and in a world where you're trying to get labor, imagine that you got to start getting your labor in at 5:30 in the morning as compared to 8:30 in.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's interesting. It just
A
tells
lot of
you.
call-ins. A lot of call-ins.
Yes. It tells you, though, how competitive QSR is. I mean, we're all looking for an angle. Today, for example, when has replaced their head guy. They took a guy that was the potbelly guy, and they brought him now over to Wendy's, and I'm going, "What are they bringing a potbelly guy over for?" Well, it turns out before he was at Potbelly, he was at Wendy's, and
Mm,
so they're bringing him back, and interestingly enough, his big claim to fame at Potbelly was he brought the digital sales up to 41% of the sales were coming digitally.
okay.
Interesting for a sandwich place. I don't know whether or not a
Do you
burger.
mean the order was placed digitally and then picked up, or is that what you mean? Or
Yeah,
like
yes.
a DoorDash kinda scenario,
No, no,
or
not
is it
necessarily that.
like pickup?
Digitally can mean both things. It just means somebody didn't
Okay,
walk into the store and order the food.
okay.
And as you and I've talked about, off the air, you don't always get the best burger and fry combination, 30
No,
minutes later, you know.
right, yeah, after it's rolled around on a floorboard of somebody's car.
Well, we've added a little
Yeah,
extra flavor, The interesting thing about that is that some concepts work great, but
yeah,
other concepts don't work so great. So it'll be interesting to see what he can do for Wendy's, but and it'll be interesting to see if they drop it everywhere, maybe the 5th time's a charm. I
yeah,
I I don't know about that. One one
yeah.
one of the things I had for you, and it's a segment that I thought about with for you, Guy, which is the coffee counter, okay? But not the
Mhm.
counter sit at, one that deals with numbers, okay? One that deals with numbers, and first of all, you were talking numbers today about the franchise numbers. So before can you refer to that? How many numbers? I mean, where is franchising today? Is it as giant as it used to be?
It's
Tell me.
yeah, yeah. Well, here's the stats. It's 845,000 units in the United States, 920 billion economic output, and it employs almost 9 million people in the US. So it's not like growing like this, but it's growing and it's steady growth and it's across many, many business sectors, as you know. And then, of course, because I'm sitting in Colorado, it did mention to me that Colorado remains one of the top 10 states for franchise expansion. So come to Colorado, people.
Why why is why
And
is
then
why is that? I mean, I love Colorado, but why is it a great state for franchising?
um, I think it's just the growth in Colorado in terms of population is really big. We have a lot of influx of people coming in. It is a it's a great state to be in.
It is a great it is a great
Yeah,
state.
I think that's why. And we don't have crazy regulations against franchising like some states do. Extra hoops for franchisors to go through like Washington and Minnesota and Rhode Island. I remember when we were going to register for Rhode Island, they told us all the extra steps and I was like, I love Rhode Island. That's where my dad is from, but I'm like, it's not worth going to Rhode Island. It's Providence. So um but I do like it, but it's a fairly easy state to do business in as long as you're not in downtown Denver.
So do you
That's
see
that's a little
franchising
bit crazy.
exploding still, or do you see it creeping along? What's your take?
Well, it's interesting because it's always under the gun. I think it's because there's unions that want to get their hands on 8.9 million people's dues, and have McDonald's be the employer of everybody that works in a McDonald's and things like that. So it's always up against economic headwinds and political headwinds, I think, because you get a few bad apples in franchising. Um, I've personally my whole life and lifestyle and family is based on the successes that franchising has allowed us to have that I wouldn't have been able to do on my own. But we've also been in a weird way, I hate calling myself a victim, but we got ripped off by somebody in franchising after we were in it for many, 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 many years. You just can't iterate around someone just doing something illegal and then leaving the country. So you get a story like that, and people are like, "Oh, franchising, it's like a pyramid scheme or something." It's like, no, it's not. It's just a really good, smart business model. I think it's a great step for people that want to be entrepreneurs, be in business for themselves, but not by themselves. The whole thing. And we have the International Franchise Association. That's our political lobby that protects franchising because it does offer a ton of opportunity, not just for the employees and the frontline service workers, but for people to own a business, have flexibility, have a lifestyle that allows them to raise the family the right way and contribute to the community that they're in, all those kind of things. And it's growing. Despite these things, these headwinds, it's still growing. And I don't think it's going away at all because
What's your take
it's
on
just a
these
great stepping stone.
what's your take on these passive franchise? Where the guy says, "Listen, you can own a franchise and you don't have to worry about it. You can stay home, or you can keep your day job, or you can be retired." What's your take on that?
Yeah, that's misrepresentation because every franchise I know is still a small business, um, that, you know, uh, people get the wrong idea and then we also have we have a layer of people between the prospective franchisee and the franchisor that are driving the sales, and I think sometimes depending on who's doing the tail is wagging the dog, really. So you have independent salespeople that are representing franchisors, and they're motivated for a commission check, basically. Not all of them. Some of them are helping people build their dreams and things like that. It's like anything else. There's good and bad. There's excellent people in that are considered friends, and there's people that aren't, that are just, hey, whoever's going to offer me the highest commission, that's the brand I love today, and that's the brand I'm going to sell, even if this family lives in a town where that concept isn't going to go too well or something like that. So I think the tail is wagging the dog in terms of sales is driving some of the practices that happen in franchising. Um,
I worked. I
Especially.
I didn't mean to interrupt the other guy. I worked.
No,
I
go
worked
ahead.
two different groups that I got out of. One I officially worked with, and one I thought I might work with, and both of them were in a mad rush to open as many of these things wherever they could. I was involved as a consultant for literally weeks with a company called Medici, which is a pizza
Mhm.
place. It was a
Yeah.
Neapolitan pizza place, and
Yeah.
they sold. You ready for this stat? They sold 329 franchises before they opened the first franchise store. They had a company unit and they sold 329 franchises. Many of them
Wow.
were multi-unit, and
Sure.
unfortunately, very few of them opened.
Yeah.
And, when you hear a story like that, it does make somebody go and say, "Wow, this stuff happens." And
Yeah.
I'm not I and I as I spent a little time, and no names here, as I spent a little time with him, none of that was done with bad intention. I can tell you he was not I mean, he just believed that strongly in his concept, and he believed that
Mhm.
strongly that he had the team that could make it work. I don't think he was just sitting there saying, "Just send me checks." I think he legitimately wanted it to open. But you and I know, boy, if a concept works in Ouray, Colorado, does it mean it's gonna work in Providence, Rhode Island? Number 1, and number
No.
2, if it works in one place only, does it mean it's even gonna work in a second place?
Right.
What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, I mean, patent, straight up answer is absolutely not. There's got to be some proof of concept, at least something outside of your home market. I share with people, it's like you have to know if this model. I'm talking to founders. You have to know if this model can work without your particular gifts and your particular connections and your particular personality and work ethic. You have to find out if someone else can run your systems, processes, and model and be successful before you like put your foot on the gas. I think we did at the concept that Stephanie and I founded. I think we did that in a good way. We did some things great, and we did, we could have done some things better, but we didn't then do anything to misrepresent or anything like that. But well, we had our corporate store, and then we had two franchisees in a different state, totally different markets, start out, and we saw how they did before we engaged in full franchise sales. And put the foot on the gas for franchise sales because we saw that they were doing well. Now, some people would say, like, really, three? That's not much better than one. You should have done 10 or whatever. But at that point in time, for founders and everything, it's like you're excited. Like you want to get this out there. Like you're excited to have the concept grow for monetary reasons, maybe for some ego reasons, maybe for like altruistic, like I want other people to have this business opportunity. um and you're excited, so it's there's nothing wrong with it. Chuck and Dave, who started Anytime Fitness, they never even opened a franchise. They literally said, Eric, Eric was doing the marble floors, buffing the marble floors. You want to be our first franchisee? They had like full service things, and they had this idea for Anytime Fitness. They never even opened one, but like they had the right ideas. Like, we're going to try this. We're going to see how it goes. And we're going to iterate like that, like that. If anything's wrong, we're going to, like, there is no ego involved. It's like, yeah, let's do it. And, in the
There
5,000
aren't many
units
people
later.
I get to ask this question of, and I've certainly spent decades in and around franchising. You've been a franchisor, you've been a franchisee. Which was more fun?
Mhm.
Which was scarier?
Franchisor is way scarier. Like, way scarier, because you have way more people involved, and there's bigger numbers involved and bigger dollars, and people are, getting loans against their retirement accounts to open your concept and things like that. Don't get me wrong. My first, when I was writing my signature on a personal guarantee line for our first lease in our first Anytime Fitness, I was like, "Oh, man," like, if this doesn't go well, this is gonna be a challenge." And by the 5th one, I was like, "Yeah, whatever, there's other people gonna be in front of you in line." And they seem to be going pretty well. But, it's it's, um it's way scarier as a franchisor, and I think that's one of the things that people don't get when they hear something about a franchise system, and maybe taking a misstep or two. It's different if they're misrepresenting or, being jerks about it and being thieves basically. But, you know, every franchise system goes through some bumps and bruises. um, Not every step is going to be perfect. And it's sometimes people just jump on this like, oh, see, like they don't know what they're doing. It's like, yeah, it's their first time going down this path. Like, but it's how they handle those kind of situations that makes the difference,
And it's certainly not
and
the first time for Wendy's or Taco Bell or Denny's or fill in the blank. It's not their first time, and they still have stumbles. I mean, there's no exact science to this thing, and I think
yeah,
one thing I get is that people think when they buy a franchise, they've kind of got this guarantee that there's not going to be bumps in the road. And I think you and I can tell them if you are a franchisee, there's going to be bumps in the road. If you're thinking to be
yeah,
one, there's definitely bumps in the road. And if you're a franchisor, you've got to be prepared for those bumps in the road because you got to figure out how you're going to react quickly to them. But
yeah.
I can't see franchising going away. Can you?
No, no, it is definitely here to stay, in my opinion. There's too many success stories for it not to be, and a handful of bad actors or bad apples or whatever you want to call them is not gonna stop this this. It just works for a reason. It just people really the first thing that we did when we went down this path with this franchisor that ended up stealing our money, basically, the first thing we did was look for another franchisor to give them more money that did the same thing because we were so convinced on the market for this service. Because we will happily pay someone 6-7% to not have to come up with the tech stack, to come up with the branding, to come up with the marketing plan, to come up with the expansion plan, to come up with the learning management system. Like, we see that as like, that's fine. Like, we can execute a good plan. I just don't have to create everything for it. And we did. Like, we took that, not to go too much into me, but like, where we took that and we built everything that franchise system that we actually paid them for. And we, built the tech stack and the marketing and the expansion plan, the learning management system and the vendor network, did it all on our own. And it took a year. Like, imagine how much that cost in terms of time and money and lost
Oh, a great
opportunity cost.
franchisee that has IP, that has marketing prowess, that has a tech stack. I mean, a great franchisor, excuse me. There's a lot of value there. I mean, I can tell you, I was a Burger King franchisee and the youngest, matter of fact, ever in the history. I was a BK franchisee, and lots of my friends did really, really well with Burger King. And they all got very cocky, as we all would. And you think it's more about you than it is about the franchise. That I think that's one of the givens. And a whole
Oh
bunch of them
yeah.
opened up other stuff on their own.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden it's Gee's hot dogs and not a franchise. And let me tell
Yeah.
you, very few of them were anywhere near as successful as they were when they were a Burger King franchisee. And you
Yeah.
hate to admit it, but there was probably something to the sign and the systems and the marketing power. It's pretty hard to duplicate. Now, that doesn't mean everything should be franchised, and it doesn't mean there shouldn't be unique one-offs. But I gotta tell you, it's nice to learn from someone else's marketing. It's nice to learn from someone else's mistakes.
Yeah, and it's the whole mastermind principle. Like, when you get a bunch of people that are running the same exact model and trying to do the same exact thing, you're gonna run into people that are more gifted in than you are in hiring practices, in marketing, in operations, in vendor selection, and things like that. And all of a sudden, you're working with these people across the country, and you just pick and choose. Like, oh my gosh, Mark Stevens down in Mississippi, like, he's killing it with this age group. Like, what is he doing? Oh, functional fitness for ageless athletes. Tell me more about that, Mark. Mark picks up the phone. Oh, this is what we do. This is how we do it. This is how we market it. This is the programming we do. Because Mark doesn't care. I'm not taking any of his clients in
Right.
Oxford, Mississippi, right? And we run the same exact business. So, you that's
And
the other
that's how
reason
you
that
got
franchising won't go away.
going back to Dairy Queen, you got the blizzard from a franchisee. As long
Yeah.
as the franchisor is willing to give you a little bit of leeway, at least to help. It's funny. At some point, we'll talk more about the book I wrote, which is how
Hmm.
we first got connected. But one of the things I do in
Yeah.
the book, Mind Shift Profit Lift, is quote people. And Eleanor Roosevelt said, "Learn from other people's mistakes. So you don't have enough time to make them on your own." And let me tell you, in the
Oh.
franchise world, a good franchise, they've already made a bunch of those mistakes and they've worked to correct them, or they haven't made the mistakes because when they tested, they're testing on their dime most of the time, not on your dime, unless
Hmm.
you want it to be on your dime. They're testing on their dime. So there's a lot to be said for the system. That being said, um, each week, could we come up with a lot of F bombs? Yeah, we could.
Yeah.
Could,
For
could we,
sure.
could we come up with franchisors that should never have been franchisors? Yes.
Yeah.
Could we come up with
For sure.
brokers who would rather sell you whatever's going to give them the highest commission? Yes, we could. But I don't know if you wouldn't make those statements just in the real world in business. I mean, we could
Yeah.
say the same thing about landlords. We could say
Yeah.
the same thing about partners. We could say, I mean,
Yeah. Anything. There's caveat emptor, like buyer beware. Like it applies universally, right? It's not just franchising that has a few bad apples. It's every sector that does, right?
well,
So
before we wrap this thing up, there is one thing that kind of is wow, how did this happen? Right down to the counting by the numbers with the coffee counter. One thing
yeah.
that amazes me, and it's in the book a number of times in a number of different ways. I still sit and I look at Raising Cane's, Todd Graves, and he has essentially two entrees. He's got chicken
Hmm.
finger and chicken finger sandwiches. I might even call that 1.5 entrees.
Yeah.
Okay, and then obviously there isn't a person listening who's never been to a McDonald's. It depending on how you count it, they have somewhere between 40 and 50 entrees, not to count the whole coffee station. As of 2 weeks
Right.
ago, a whole line of dirty sodas. That's a conversation for another day. Dirty sodas,
Yeah.
but I for one say, first of all, how was that possible? When I saw the first Raising Cane's, I go, well, they must do a little bit of volume like a Dairy Queen. I mean, they must be just a specialist. Dairy Queen sells cones,
Hmm.
they chicken fingers. What do you think the numbers are today between McDonald's and Raising Cane's? You and I have talked about this. If we asked 100 people, how many people would say Raising Cane's volume would be higher than McDonald's if we asked 100 people?
Only a couple of them. They're in QSR and franchising.
If I said it to you and you didn't know anything about QSR, what would your answer be?
No, I wouldn't think that they would come close to
Impossible.
McDonald's.
I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
QSR guy, and I was pretty shocked. Yeah, they didn't come close to McDonald's. They're 1.5 times McDonald's. They're doing
Yeah.
50% more. I mean, think
Yeah.
about that. Think about that.
Yeah.
And you're an operator and I'm an operator. I mean, we've been there. It's not like, I haven't been on the Whopper line. I mean, I've been at all
Yeah.
of them. And when you think about how hard it is to hire people in today's world, keep motivated and teach them something new every hour. Like now we've got 30 sodas on top of whatever, on top of the fact you have
Mhm.
to know how to make 50 different menu items.
Mhm.
Imagine how much easier it is to provide the service and the
Yeah.
and the hospitality if all you're making essentially is one item. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Really
pretty.
well. And I think you mentioned that the thing he says is like, you have to do something so well that people crave it.
That's
Like
right.
he uses the word crave. So I know because I have an 18-year-old, and once in a while he's like, I'm going to meet the guys at Raising Cane's. That's what I want today. Like,
It's funny.
they're not going.
My basketball team, we had a trade up. We had a Raising Cane's versus Zaxby's conversation. You may not know Zaxby's. It's somewhat of a
I
southeastern.
do. Yeah. It's Southern, right?
Yeah,
Mostly
but
Southern. Right.
Zaxby's is much more with the whole menu and all kinds of stuff, and chicken tenders are part of it, or chicken fingers, depending on what you're calling it. And the winner was, even the kids who didn't think the winner would be, the winner was Raising Cane's because, what, I'm a big Seth Godin guy, and a lot of the conversation is about being elite at something. And you and I are
Hmm.
going to. That's a theme that I'm sure we'll keep with as we do more of these. But
Yeah.
being elite at something is hard to do. It's hard to be a
Hmm.
real did something. I think that's what the concept that you built wasn't really that your idea was to be elite at
Mhm.
something.
Yeah, yeah. I like to be the cleanest and friendliest and, and the healthiest.
It,
Yeah,
it,
nail service, right?
it's really interesting. I really enjoy the conversation. I really like the fact that your listeners get to hear somebody interviewing you as compared to you always interviewing somebody else. So I think it's kind of neat because you obviously have a lot to bring to this thing. It is,
Yeah,
there's so much that can be talked about in this situation when it comes to being a franchisee, being a franchisor, considering it, having one. And I want in the future, I'd like you to talk to me much more about private equity and franchising because that's something where I'm an outsider looking in, and you have a much greater handle on that. And obviously the future of franchising looks like it's going to include PE.
for
Uh,
sure.
and one other thing
And,
I think we need
yeah,
to be talking about is it looks like the future of franchising is also going to be about boring businesses.
yeah. And, and then I'd also like to talk about maybe in our next episode, some concepts that are just blowing up, and they're based on a simple menu and this thing called customer service, right? That it's not automation. And then the one that comes to mind is Seven Brew. Like it's just blowing up. I know what their development minimums are. They're huge. And that is something that I've only been to one. I know you know a lot more about it than I do, from a franchising perspective. And let's just kind of tease that for our next episode. We're going to talk a little bit about Seven Brew, about being a lead at something, and then
And
this thing about
also, as I
simplification rather than complication.
yeah, and also, I think at one point, as we all age up, not that any of us are getting older, but as we all age up, this whole idea of what's happening in the senior market, all of a sudden, I never heard of senior franchises, and now they seem to be popping up in all kinds of different ways and categories. There's lots to discuss when it comes to franchising, and
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
I'm honored that you've involved me in this. I think it's really neat. I hope our listeners are getting something out of it, and our viewers are getting something out of it. I was always told I had a face for radio, so the fact that this has a visual component, I don't know exactly what that means, but this
I
was a
think
lot
it's
of fun.
great.
This was a lot of
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then if anybody does have questions specific, whether you're a franchisee and you want to ask us who've been in franchising for 20 years, 30 years, like, hey, this is my concept is doing this. And what do you think about that? Or if you're a franchisor or a founder, or you're thinking about getting into franchising, we are here. We would love to answer questions. Either put it in the comments or just reach out to us. We'll have our contact information right here. You can reach out to Pete or me directly, and kind of use this as a resource. We're happy to do it. So,
and you know
Pete,
what else I'd
thanks
like
for answering the questions today and
we always
asking me too.
thank you. What else I'd like him to tell us too is what's in your marketplace that you think should be franchised? Because, all of these
Mm,
things for the most part start out in somebody's town. And the
yeah,
next thing you know, they're in 2 towns and 3 towns, and that's how they I have no idea what's going on, but I'm sure there's something in the middle of Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, that
yeah,
is something that is gonna be there in 10 years. We go, "Where'd that thing start?" That always
yeah,
amazes me is
yeah,
where did that thing start? You know? And that's another
yeah,
we'll be looking at, and I have some stories on that too, so thank you for the invite.
yeah. Good.
I hope you guys
All
have all
right.
enjoyed listening. I've certainly enjoyed participating, and, we're gonna do this
Likewise.
again.
We're going to do more conversations with Pete and Guy.
Thanks, Guy.
Tune in.
All right.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
That wraps up today's episode of the Franchise Scale Up Show. If this gave you a strategy you can put into play, please share it with one founder who needs the help. You might save them months of pain. If you're ready to go deeper, whether it's building your support infrastructure, accelerating territory sales, or preparing for private equity, go to guycoffey.com. That's GUYCOFFEY, and book a free franchise growth strategy call. I only partner with founders who are committed to scaling without losing control. If that's you, I'd love to connect. Until next time, protect your vision, move fast, and scale smart. I'm Guy Coffey. Talk soon.